Welcome one and all. It's time for a Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle report. What madness is this? That's right, 3rd edition is upon us, and of course Andy and Rem are among the first to sink our fangs into that juicy content. Hello Mr. Remington, the people can't see you, but they can certainly hear you.
Hello everybody and welcome to this first Age of Sigmar version 3 battle report, or 3rd edition. We've been waiting for this for so long, so I can't wait to show you what happened.
Well, it was certainly a spice fest, and this clearly took place at Warhammer World. If you couldn't tell from the decor, then you would also be able to tell from the lack of adverts on this video, due to the very strict Games Workshop policy about commercial content on their premises. So, there is the game set up, and you can see that it's the Stormcast Eternals versus the Daughters of Khaine. The Stormcast with relatively few numbers, the Daughters of Khaine with slightly more numbers, shall we say, and we will go through the forces and the scenario here. So we're playing with most of the 3rd edition rules that we've actually memorised. I'm sure a few things were incorrect or from previous editions, because this is the first one, just re-familiarising ourselves, getting down there in the trenches, getting our hands dirty, and we are going to be becoming more adept with the rules as time goes on. So,
Having said this, I was really scared it'd be really complicated, and it wasn't as complicated as sometimes playing in 8th edition Warhammer Battle. But yeah, like you said, there's a bunch of stuff we've picked up after the game that we could have done. But I guess that's the same for everyone, right? So we're just dipping our toes in here with I think 1,250 points. So not 2,000, not 1,000, but 1,250. And what you can see there. Should we start with the Daughters of Khaine list, Andy?
yes. So what have you got here on the flank?
So I played Daughters of Khaine, and here are some Doomfire Warlocks. 5 of them. Now these are very spicy because they've got 14-inch movement. They've got a missile attack, although it's only 12 inches, I think 12 inches range. But they've also got a magic magic missile ability as well. And their horses fight too. So they end up with 4 attacks in combat. And a shooty weapon and a magic weapon. So very handy indeed, I think. Thoughts, and still do. So at the back there, we've got a Bloodrack Medusa on the whole Bloodrack shrine. And I think in previous editions, this was a bit of a letdown. Not in this one, though. It's an absolute beast. In front of that, I've got 10 Sisters of Slaughter there. And to the left of those ladies, I have 20 witch elves. And to the left of the witch elves, I've got a statue of Khaine. And this is inanimate. I chose the Hag Gnaw faction of the Daughters of Khaine, which basically means this thing can come to life from the second turn onwards, but I can try and make it come to life in the first with a prayer. So there we go. That's not all.
No,
We're
what have you
almost
got
there.
out on this other flank here? A couple of
Yes.
flappy, sneaky units there.
Yes, we've got some Khaine life takers. They're not the ones with the harpoons at the back there with the wings. They're the ones with the sickles. Perhaps I could have brought these in at a later turn, but I thought, I'll probably forget about them, so I'll just stick them on the flank, see if they can outmaneuver some of Andy's troops. They've got they can fly, obviously, and they've got 14-inch movement as well. Then we've got the Blood Stalkers, Medusas there. They've had a definite upgrade as well from the previous edition. So they've got a movement of 8, very fast and slick, and they've got 2 shots each with their bows, and a roll of a 6 deals an automatic mortal wound. So pretty cool. Wish I'd brought more, but there you go. I believe that's about 1,250 points. So Bloodrat Medusa, she's one of the heroes, and they've also got a hag queen, I think, on foot. There you go.
And now over to the noble Stormcast after that look through the vile, depraved, evil Daughters of Khaine. So, going for some of the classic units, and I haven't got any of the Dominion models painted yet, so there's nothing vastly new. Some of the original Stormcast, and some from kind of the Soul Wars era sprinkled in as well. So we've got a couple of concussors, first of all. Can't leave home without some Dracoths.
Isn't it interesting, Andy, how static these older edition models look already compared to the new Stormcast? Just a side note there.
Yeah, that is a case that could be made. Then moving into the middle, we've got this little shooting battery with some ether wings, however you want to pronounce it, backing them up. We've got 5 Judicators, and we've got the ballista as well. So nice little gun line in the middle there, and over on this side you can see the limitations of the phone camera. When it's zoomed in, it doesn't look nearly as good. Yeah, because I've been trying out taking pictures purely with the phone camera, which is good, but the zoom on it, it's one of those like digital zooms, so it's not like a real zoom.
It's going to pixel it, Andy, but what people can't necessarily see is how good your paint jobs were. And it's, I usually criticize your paint jobs, but they looked particularly fantastic on this board, as you'll see in later pictures. One thing I've noted, all your Stormcast troops, bearing the mounted ones, have 2 wounds, don't they? Apart from the heroes as well, including those ether wings, those little birds. They've got 2 wounds each, yet my Khaine life takers only have 1.
Yes, that is true. So, the Stormcast and this little fighting force here, we've got a Knight Incanter, we've got a Lord Celestant on a Dracoth, we've got 5 Liberators, we've got the long strike crossbow dudes there as well. 3 of those, you can just about see them behind the Lord Celestant.
They're like ridiculous. They've got like auto hits, haven't they? Is it like 2 to hit with them guys?
They are very accurate, yes, but they don't have that many shots. So you can see here, slightly better pictures, although you have got Remington in the background. But nice cinematic shot there of where we were.
That's a great shot, man. I think people that particularly live in Europe or America are going to really love this video. This is Warhammer World. Obviously, you're seeing it in COVID times, so it's not nowhere near as busy as it usually is. And you can tell also I've been working out. Look how slim I look.
You can see the slender Remington there in the background. And I've just noticed in the chat that Graham Rigg has apparently sprained his foot. So we wish a speedy recovery to Graham Rigg there. I don't wish a speedy recovery to any of the Daughters of Khaine that are slain during this battle, though. So the scenario here.
Go on.
Let's have a look with. Let's get a little arrow on the screen, shall we?
So while Andy's doing that, let me just point out that every single one of Andy's troops, barring those 3 birds, have some sort of shooting or magic attack, and the Liberators. Liberators don't. The guy on the guys on those dragon mounty horsey things, they've all got fiery breaths, which I completely forgot about it until I stood right in front of them. And then, of course, you've got the Knight Incantor. She's some kind of, she's got magic shooty things.
Surprisingly good in combat as well, though.
Yeah. So your only sort of basic troop that you've got in this army are the Liberators, aren't they? You've got no sort of combat foot soldiers apart from them. You've got speed and a lot of shooting, and you've got 1 sort of anvil unit, I guess.
So we decided to start off with quite a simple scenario. So the 3 pieces of terrain in the middle of the table, you can score if you control them by having troops on them or touching them. That's what we went with. Just a nice one, keep it simple, nothing complicated. Yep. Just while we're getting a feel for the rules again, getting those Age of Sigmar juices flowing through our veins so that we can start taking further steps into the scenarios from the books later on. Because what I always find is that you need a bit of the foundations laying before reading a rulebook. So I usually like to go in and try and muddle through a couple of games first and then sit down and read the rulebook, because you've already got the foundations of them laid out in your mind, and then you can just build on top of that your knowledge. I don't know if you're the same, but I think you are.
Definitely the same. It's like reading a movie script. Would you rather read the movie script or watch the film? Right? Did that even make sense? I don't know. carry on.
I suppose reading the script after you've watched the film would be an interesting experience. You might pick up on things, and you'd have the visuals in your head as well.
Yes.
So it kind of makes sense. So you can see that the Daughters of Khaine have gone first, but I believe I actually won the roll-off and allowed Mr. Remington to go first.
Yes. Now, people are saying since this battle, I've been watching loads of how to play videos after. They've been saying going second is better. I think you get more command point. We'll go on to command points in a bit, but you get 2 command points if you go second and 1 if you go first. And it's kind of a nice little twist, I suppose. My thinking, why I was happy to go first, Andy, was that well, at the time, I'd get closer to your guys, so I could kick the heads in, basically, because you've got lots of shooty attacks, and if I stood still, I'd just get sort of shot down. That was my thinking.
My thinking behind not going first was, first of all, I'd have the opportunity for a double turn at some point.
Oh yeah.
And secondly, well, with the command points, we were kind of doing the command points correctly in that we were allocated some and we were spending them, but we didn't do much of the spending command points in other people's turns and all that kind of malarkey.
Yeah, I didn't realize you could do that. I think we just had 1 per turn, didn't we? And we just used it in our hero phase.
Yeah, we just kept it simple. So we are going to spice that up in future games. And you moved your little sneakies up here as well.
Yeah, I was figuring, well, maybe I'd get some kind of, you know, maybe it'd be harder for you to shoot me if I was stood behind that. Or I don't know, snakes don't stand, do they? So I thought the avatar of Khaine could maybe soak up some damage and then get into you, wade in. He's got a shooting attack, by the way, as well, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can see Andy's pictures there, very lovely. All my troops moving forward, and I've got my Doomfire Warlocks flanking around the outside. I don't think, yeah, he did have. I mean, Andy spread his shooting units out across the table. There was pretty much nowhere to hide if I wanted to get points. Anyway, Sister Slaughter moved up there, right in the line of fire.
Well, everything has to be kind of in the line of fire somewhere. But one thing that's notable about your approach here is that you weren't touching a lot of the terrain with your troops, which is going to give me the opportunity to try and get victory points at the end of the first turn. However, the central objective area, we decided only the top of the steps, that platform with the big Chaos Eye on it, would be eligible for the central objective.
I don't think my Bloodstalkers could actually reach that. That was movement 8 there. I suppose I could have moved the Life Takers onto that piece of scenery there.
I don't think they would have survived much shooting there.
True.
And what have we got here? So, what are these bow-wielding snake warriors going to do? Well, they remove some Judicators, actually. They take out 2 and wound another.
Very satisfying indeed. So yeah, I think they're not easy. Stormcast are not easy to take off the table because they've got these ridiculous saving throws, for one, especially the Liberators, and these guys I struggled with. Now, one of your guys there, I think the champion of that unit, has this ridiculous bow, doesn't he? Where he just, is it like D6 shots or something?
It's D6 hits if it actually hits you, which it generally does.
Right, and I think almost all of your attacks do some sort of rend as well, right? So
a lot of them do have rend as well, yes.
Yeah, and you might have noticed that most of my army is pretty naked. So yeah, it wasn't looking good for me on the saving throw front.
We're on to the Stormcast turn now. So let's have a look what's going to happen here. You'll see that the Judicators have been a little bit replenished there. That's because there is a command ability now that allows you to bring back some fallen warriors on the roll of a 6.
So you rolled 2d6 and one of them was a 6. And
yes.
Andy, this was confused me because I thought if you lose some figures from losing a bravery roll and they run away, okay, that's fair enough, bring them back. But it did seem a bit weird that you could bring them back when they've actually been killed. But that is the rule.
I think you have to use your imagination a little bit. So maybe when someone is killed, then maybe they're not actually killed. Maybe they're just beaten down in the battlefield so badly, and then this command ability like replenishes them somehow and
Yeah.
rejuvenates them, motivates them to stand up and carry on fighting.
I mean, you did roll well, to be honest. You know, you got one back there, which is it's a big deal, especially when it's multi-wound characters. Now tell me about these ether wings. These birds, are they literally just 2-wound birds? Do they have any special abilities or anything?
They are fast, and they also have an ability where, you know, I could just look at their war scroll right now because there is an interesting ability which I will tell you about.
I was trying to think, why didn't I shoot them down? I think I didn't really see them as too much of a threat.
Okay, so here you go.
Hmm.
At the start of the enemy charge phase, if this unit is wholly within 18 inches of a friendly unit of Vanguard Raptors, this unit can move up to 2d6. They must finish the move wholly within 18 inches of the same unit of Vanguard Raptors. So, if you've got an enemy unit that's about to charge into your lines, then these guys can basically swarm in and start pecking them, and then prevent them from doing so.
They're literally a screen then, aren't they? I
Yes.
suppose.
So that's why
Right.
I've got them in my little shooting line, gun line there.
I've
So
got you. So I can see, Andy, you've moved your liberators up. The guy on the dragon pony is really blocking the path there in the middle.
yes,
And
he's
on the
hoping
left,
he's hoping to get an immediate charge into the Sisters of Slaughter, is it?
although I don't know, I don't quite fancy their chances against him, to be fair. But you've also you're countering my statue of Khaine there, aren't you, by bringing your Draconith riders on the left round the objective there on the left, and you are claiming the objective at the same time, right?
Yes, the Dracoths don't mind fighting the Avatar of Khaine, and they're also taking that objective with their speed, so I'm going to get a victory point for that.
It's
And
funny, Andy, watching it from your side of the table now, it really does look like you're going to be shooting fish in a barrel.
maybe it does, but let's find out how that goes for me. So the
right.
Liberators, I don't think they ran, no, because I think they're going to try and charge the Doomfire Warlocks.
Got you.
Let's see. Headhunter says, this is by far the best thing you guys have ever done. Thought-provoking. Well
Oh,
done.
wow.
That's quite a compliment, assuming it's not being sarcastic, because this is YouTube. So, there is some shooting being done here. So, shall we see who's been slaughtered by it? I don't know whether I actually took anyone off, did I? Yeah, there you go. So there's a few wounds being done to the sneakies there.
Well, I'll tell you exactly how those sisters. If you go back a couple of images, you'll see your what's it called again? Lord Arcanum, Lord something on a Dracoth.
The Lord Celestant.
That's the one. You can see that there's 4 models been taken off. I think that was from your dragon breath, which was just like ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't think I had any saving throws. If I had a cauldron of blood instead of that shrine, I might have been able to get this ward save, but I didn't. So, and I might have, if I was more sensible, perhaps I could have put some sort of command point on those Sisters of Slaughter to stop them being slaughtered. But there you are, 4 of them down just even before the combat started there.
Certainly were. What do you think is going to happen to them in close combat?
Well,
the prediction, you've just been charged by a Lord Celestant. 4 of them have just died from the lightning breath of the Dracoth. I wonder what's going to happen to them now.
I think he's just going to swap them away like flies. It's like a really bad matchup. I should have... The Sister Slaughter would have been much better going into your Liberators, but, you know,
let's
I
see
guess
what
it is what it is.
Let's see what the long strike crossbows can do.
Oh, God.
And they actually contributed a bit to that as well, which is why there's even more of those guys dead. So it wasn't entirely the Lord Celestant. And the Liberators do successfully charge into the Doomfire Warlocks as well, which means that this area is going to be contested, this piece of terrain, because now, technically, maybe the Liberators should have claimed it, but I think we had a bit of a misunderstanding of what we determined the rules were exactly. So we decided this one was going to be a draw if there were that many models touching it at the end of the round.
Yeah, seems fair. I mean, it's like looking back at this now, like going second seems so much better, right? Because when you go first, you're not in range to shoot anybody, right? So all your shooting attacks negated, and
You can
you
see that
know, yeah,
you can see the Liberators didn't do anything in combat though. That little fighty dice behind them there showing that they've already fought.
that was amazing. And they get 2 attacks each, don't they? I think they
They
do.
do, yes.
They
And
do.
you'll see here that the Lord Celestant murders those Sisters of Slaughter
Now,
utterly. They did manage to wound him first though.
I think the only reason I can't remember even having a swing. I was so disappointed because those Sisters Slaughtered, they're like £30 to buy 10 of them, something ridiculous. Took me ages to paint them, but not as long as the Witch Elves because you don't have to do the hair and the face.
They did get to
Well,
fight though because they've got those crossed swords dice next to them. So they did swing and they did wound the Lord Celestant, but then all of them were obliterated.
I don't know because they've got this. I'd armed them with these pointy shields. So if I save, if I roll a 6 to save or something like that, then you get a mortal wound.
Yeah, I think it's similar to the ability the Lord Celestant has on his shield, but I think you, when you were re-rolling your saves, rolled a 1 again, I seem to recall.
Yeah, the slaughter. I mean, this guy's ever since the first Age of Sigmar box set come out, isn't he? He's his name. He was a named character.
Well,
Can't
there's
remember.
Vandus Hammerhand,
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
and
Vandus
then
Hammerhand.
it's the Vandus Hammerhand model, but with a shield put on it.
Right.
So,
Well,
so it can be used as just a regular Lord Celestant, because Vandus Hammerhand is too manly to have a shield, I think.
I mean, he's just like a tank, man. He just puts out so many attacks, and that shield is just, you manage to get a wound on the fella, and you get punished for it because he somehow manages to deflect it on his shield and deflect it back on you.
Well,
So the Doomfire Warlocks obviously don't look. I think I've got 1 wound on you, hence the dice there next to that one of them. But
there's not too much
yeah,
action going on here, only 1 wound in the entire combat. So, like I said, we decided that this objective for this turn was going to be a draw because we had a little bit of confusion over whether you had to be within range of the terrain piece or touching it.
yeah.
However, it was clear over here that the Dracoths were certainly claiming this piece of terrain. So that's going to be a victory point for the Stormcast, represented by this dice here. So the Stormcast take the lead and on to the next battle round. And Remington wins the roll here, so gets to choose and elects to go first again, not wanting me to have a double turn, seemingly.
Yeah, so I was able to, shoot my magic bolt with these guys in the hero phase, and take 2 wounds and kill one of the liberators and wound another. And then, of course, getting ready for the combat phase, these guys, I mean, the shooting phase, these guys will get to shoot and they'll get to fight, and they've got 4 attacks each. I think they're hitting on 4s and 3s, and the horses are hitting on 4s and 4s. But there's no rend going on, so tricky fight there.
A potent force. Now, in the middle, you've clearly lined up not only the Bloodrack Shrine, you've also got all the Witch Elves descending upon the Lord Celestant.
Yeah, maybe. I think I did an enfeebling foe on you, which is it -1 to wound? I can't even remember if it
It's -1 on the wound rolls that the Lord Celestant makes, I believe.
Yeah, so I think Andy, it's fair to say, Andy got a bit over too confident and overextended his charge there. So yes, the Sisters of Slaughter were sacrificed, but guess what's coming next? I was just like, like the Mexicans like to say, riwenge, and I was just going to charge all these guys, into that guy, and that's what I did. Got them in range, and I was just gonna make sure he died. So I've got my blood rack shine prepping up for a charge, plus the 20 witch elves.
So that's going to be spicy. But on the other side, you've got 3 units all surrounding the concussors here.
Yeah. Now I brought in the statue of Khaine there, lining up for a charge there. I wanted to protect my snaky ladies because I just wanted to keep them away from the fighting and keep their shooty attacks going. Even though I've lost one due to Andy's shooting, but I felt like I was winning the shooting fight. To be fair, after the first turn, but then I feel like I made a catastrophic mistake there on the left. Why bring those life takers round there? My thinking at the time was I wanted to make sure because I hadn't fought with the statue of Khaine before. I didn't know whether he'd be able to take those two dragon ponies out on his own. So I thought, I'll charge in the Kinari life takers because they get a bonus on the charge.
Do you want me to point you to another catastrophic mistake as well?
Please.
So I'm thinking here, you get so excited about the idea of killing these creatures that you're not thinking about the scenario. And one of these 2/5 model units could have easily perched a few of themselves on that terrain piece. Especially the archers there that aren't going to be moving towards the enemy anyway. You could just sit them on the terrain. And because you'd be outnumbering the Dracoths, and I would have to bring other troops over here then.
True that. I was just excited about at this point in the game, you've got your Lord Celestin, right? And you've got the dragon ponies here, and you've got your liberators all in combat. And if I was somehow able to keep them pinned down in combat or wipe them out, you would literally only have your back line of shooting left. So I couldn't see how you would win the game other than just to try and whittle me down. So this was a big opportunity for me to clear you of any combat threats.
That is true.
So can you see my thinking there?
I can.
I think you can.
Because if some of your fighter units, if they got into my back line there, it would not be a good time. Because the Adjudicators, the Ballista, those things do not want to be fighting like Witch Elves or an Avatar or a Bloodrack Shrine in hand-to-hand combat.
No,
and you do succeed here with your charges.
Yeah, look at that, baby! Don't you just love that? The statue of Khaine also has a firebally shooting attack. I don't think it did any damage.
I think the wounds on the whoever you attempted to launch it at, I think it was saved.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I rolled pretty badly, and you just had a ridiculous saving throw. But you can see my Hag Queen at the back there, standing on the rock. Calling on to battle those witch elves for revenge. So the only confusion, if you like, I had here is for which unit should I activate fighting first. Now I've just witnessed the power of this Celestant on the Draconith, and I didn't want him to have a fighty attack at all. So I thought I'm going to take him out. So what do I fight him with? I thought I'm going to choose the Bloodrack Shrine because it's got the most amount of attacks. Especially the two attendees with those pokey sticks. They're actually pretty good in combat.
You can see here that he's knocked down to 3 wounds at this point. The picture was taken. So something... I think actually those wounds were done by the scythes of the shrine. Yes. As it charged in. It does auto-mortal wounds, doesn't it?
Phenomenal. I know. And if you had more troops sort of close by, it can also hit other troops that it's not going into combat with on that charge. So pretty devastating. And you've also got the Medusa's attacks, which is like a whisper claw, which is pretty awesome if you can get that off.
Well, you can see what happened here.
Yeah.
And Lord Celestin is just dead. The shrine takes him out quite easily.
Absolutely. And, hindsight is obviously a wonderful thing. Maybe if I knew that it would be so devastating, I probably would have put the witch elves on the rock in the middle, claiming a point right there. But I didn't, did I?
Well, you never know. You could have rolled terribly with the shrine. And there you go. So what's going on the other side? Well, you'll see here that some of are they the life takers? That flying unit there, they seem to be lying down.
So because I'd chosen to activate in the combat phase to activate the what's it? I keep forgetting its name. Shrine. What's it called?
Bloodrack
Shrine. I activated that. Then it was Andy's turn to pick a unit to fight. So he chose to turn those the dragon ponies around and swat down those Khaine life takers. And boy, did he do it. Yeah, I mean, was it with your shooty attack, dragon breath, or just with those great
That
hammers?
was just entirely with the hammer and the teeth and claws, just completely destroyed that tiny, feeble unit that for some reason decided to join in the fight.
Unbelievable. I'm a little surprised because now you've left yourself open to the complete wrath of that beautifully painted statue of Khaine.
Well,
Were
the
you
statue
scared
did
of him?
take some wounds as well because one of the Dracoth mounted concussors wasn't in range to fight the other unit.
Got
So
you.
one of them was fighting the Avatar and has done some wounds. You can see it's been knocked down to 6 there.
Yeah, I think you took at least one wound off it then, yeah. Um, so there you go. Now that really took me by surprise killing those because I was like, what an idiot. Why didn't you bring him round to wade into Andy's artillery? But I guess there's so much it seemed like so much artillery on the back there of Andy's side that those 5 poor life takers wouldn't have been able to challenge them all.
Well, my plan
Es-
here, my tactical genius ploy, was to get you locked into combat with these units that are pretty tough to crack. And while I'm fighting you, which is hopefully going to go well, I'm also going to be able to shoot you because I'm trying to engage you within the optimal range for my shooter units. For example,
yeah.
short range of the ballista was the plan. Obviously, the Lord Celestin got a bit carried away and ended up getting himself killed. But
Yeah,
that's
now
the
now
strategy.
your ballista has 2 types of shots, doesn't it? It has like a long range kind of harpoon thing, but then it's also got this Gatling gun ability, hasn't it? Short range shooting.
Yes, and we'll see that come in shortly.
It's horrible.
So you can see all those are dead. All those
So
life takers.
it's so embarrassing. I think I might have lost out with the. I think was there one left and it just flew away.
I think
So
they were all killed, but another Liberator has gone down. So the Doomfire Warlocks are slowly winning this battle, which is a little bit of a pillow fight because neither of these units are hugely hard hitting. And
right, I think just the extra attacks just weighted it more in my favour, though, right? Um,
yes,
so obviously they've got these crossbow attacks as well. I could shoot them in the shooting phase and the magic phase. So that was definitely to my advantage. So what's going on here? Is that double
well,
six? Have you just saved
that
something?
is a couple of armor saves for the
Oh god,
Concussor. So I
unbelievable!
believe that the Avatar of Khaine's attacks, had those armor saves failed, would have actually killed the model because of how much damage one of those attacks does.
Like 3 damage or D3 damage, and I've done 2 wounds. So potentially I could have got 5 or 6.
It might be even be
Bunch of
just
wounds.
3 damage, I'm not sure. But there's also rend on that attack. So rolling
Wow.
a couple of sixes there, that was nice.
How many wounds have those dragon ponies gotten?
They have 5 each.
Okay.
So there would have been a good chance one of them was going down if those saves had been failed. I'm sure you're furiously looking up the Avatar of Khaine War Scroll right now.
I am. How do you know, Andy? Can you see me? It's weird.
And there's a bit of an overview of the battlefield. So it's looking very good for the Daughters of Khaine on the right hand side there. Stormcast have got it more their own way on the left. There's not much left. There's a heavily wounded Avatar, and there are those snake archers as well, which aren't going to win in a straight up fight against everything I've got over there.
No.
The Knight Incantor is kind of facing down your entire army on her own there in the centre, which,
This is just at the end of my second turn, isn't it? So you've got your turn coming up, right?
yes, and this is where it's going to get spicy. So the Everwings decide they're going to leap onto that objective there because the concussors aren't going to stick around there for the whole game. And I'm confident that I'm going to gun down your archers there this turn as well, so I'm not worried about being close to them. So I just want the birds to sit on this objective for the rest of the game and just rack up those victory points.
Yeah, you were right, Andy. The Avatar of Khaine, the sword hit 4 attacks, 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -2 rend with 3 damage.
Yes, so one of the concussors
Uh,
would have been killed if I hadn't made both those saves.
and it comes in with a 4+ save and 9 wounds. So it looks like you took 3 wounds off already.
So, with the amount of models touching this terrain, if no one had died this turn, which is possible, if something goes horribly wrong, then the birds being there are going to be important to secure this victory point for me. The ballista. Well, at this particular juncture, I decided to use a command point to put +1 to hit on the ballista, which means that its short range attack, which normally hits on 5s, was now hitting on 4s. 4 shots hitting on 4s, and each one does d6 hits if it hits. So it ended up obliterating the rest of them.
Oh my god. Flipping heck. That is ridiculous, man. Yeah. Did they even get a -1 to hit for the cover? I don't know. It didn't make a difference. It's like, wow. It's 8 wounds. So, yeah. Were your arrow guys shooting them as well? Maybe.
I don't think they needed to. I think they were shooting at the avatar.
Flipping heck. Ridiculous.
Well, what do the long strike crossbows do? Well, they do. I think they do a tiny bit of damage maybe to the Doomfire Warlocks, but they haven't achieved that much so far, and that fight is still going against the Stormcast. The remaining Adjudicators take down the Avatar, along with the flaming lightning breath of the Dracoths there as well.
Yes.
So Avatar is dead, and that frees up the Concussors, who still haven't been wounded yet, despite being in combat with the Avatar of Khaine. And they're now free to go and join in elsewhere in the battle.
Incredible. I mean, when I killed his Lord Celestin, I think the look on Andy's face was like, oh. But after Andy's turn, he must have been thinking, this is like, I've got this, right?
And especially with this here, look what's going on there. The Liberators have actually done something for a change, and the Doomfire Warlocks have been reduced in numbers slightly now. So it's evened it up a bit there.
Yeah.
That'll do nicely. And I think one of the Liberators does go down as well, but there is the battlefield at the end of that turn. It's starting to get faster as we go on, as things are dying. I don't think the Knight Incanter has done much of note yet. The spells haven't really been... I think actually every single spell the Knight Incanter attempted was immediately unbound by one of your wizards, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I don't think you rolled particularly high, did you? You were rolling just sort of 6s and 7s, so I managed to negate those on a 2d6.
Yes.
Looking at this now, I'm wondering why didn't I try and bring back some of those Doomfire Warlocks with a command ability, or whatever they're called. What are they command abilities? They're called something else now.
It depends what it is. I can't remember what that one's called. Actually, I could just have a look here on the back of the General's Handbook and tell you. Let's see. So, that is a command ability called Rally.
That's it.
There you go.
Yeah, and everyone gets that then, right? But then different factions get extra command abilities, don't they? They can choose from.
Yes, but there's a lot of default command abilities as well, which can be found conveniently right on the back of the General's Handbook, so you should never forget them.
So I was pretty confident these Doomfire Warlocks, even though 2 of them being killed, there's only 2 Liberators left. Surely, with 2, 4, 6, with 12 attacks in total in melee, I should be able to take them out. So I'm not too worried about that side. But this side,
yes, this side definitely favours the Stormcast and claiming the victory point there. So that puts the Stormcast up to 2 points, and the Daughters of Khaine are still yet to score by my count, because the objective there on the right is a tie between the 2 units, and the central one, nobody's gone up there yet. So
that's right.
Daughters of
But
Khaine,
it's my turn now, isn't it?
It is your turn again, because once again you won the roll and decided not to give me a double turn. And you can see the hag is slowly working her way up onto the top of that evil-looking temple, trying to claim a victory point. And, oh dear, the witch elves chasing down the poor, not quite defenceless Knight Incanter there, who you probably thought was a bit of a soft target, didn't you?
It's ridiculous. I think you swatted off like 4 or 5 of them just with your attack.
Well, we'll get to that, but look at this. The Liberators are all dead.
Yeah, I chose to fight first with the warlocks in the combat phase. Well, I might have shot them as well. Managed to take them all out, but again, Andy then activates. Well, the only one he could activate was that Knight Incantor, is it? And
Yes.
she was an utter beast, man, in combat.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting her to kill that many of them, but a few of them did fall by her hand. She didn't even have to activate her exploding flasks or anything. She just straight up killed a few of them.
I think 6 of them.
I
She
think
killed 6.
is that 4 or 5 of them there? Looks
Oh,
like 4,
yeah, 4
but
of
that's
them.
still a decent number. And
Brilliant
then
paint jobs, by the way, must say.
and then she takes some wounds in retaliation, but not that many,
No.
because they didn't roll particularly high on their charge, so they couldn't have like completely swarmed around us. They were relying on pile-in moves, and
Yeah,
not that many of them could actually get in yet.
that's right.
The pile-in rules have changed, which is another thing we need to look at to make sure we're playing that correctly. Then, a bit of a wide shot there. So at the moment, Stormcast clearly have the advantage, but the Daughters of Khaine look like they're going to claim the middle area there, which is a victory point. And the Doomfire Warlocks have won the combat over on the right, so I'm going to have to shoot them down now to stop them amassing more victory points as the game goes on. Otherwise, you're going to catch up pretty quick. And a bit of a shot of that side there. So, what do these long strike crossbows do on my turn? They kill one Doomfire Warlock, but
Yep.
there's still 2 left.
Yep. I
And
wasn't losing any bravery rolls, was I? At that point,
no.
managed
And
to keep them alive.
the Ballista and the remaining Judicators target the Witch Elves by the look of it, and lots of them are dead. Look at that. That is a big pile of dead Witch Elves there.
Ridiculous. I mean, like, we're in turn 3 because I'm Hagnar. My abilities become better with each round and faster. So these abilities are like, reroll charge, which I didn't think of doing. I should have re-rolled that charge on the Knight Incantor. Forgot about that. And then they get bonuses to hit and then bonuses to wound, and it gets really good. But they need to be in combat, and even though they were totally exposed there, and they're just without a saving throw. And of course, with the render Vandy's shooting, just annihilated, man. Look at that.
That is a
3,
lot of dead Witch
6, 9,
Elves.
12. And I was hoping, maybe a few of them, well, 3 of them are still alive. Maybe if they survive the round, I can try and bring back some.
There's
with that
another
rally.
thing to point out here. So, previously to this, you had actually used a command point.
Mhm.
And this is something we did incorrectly. This is something we played as it was in a previous edition. You used a command point to prevent the Doomfire Warlocks from requiring a Battle Shock test.
That's right.
So in this edition, you could have waited, I believe, until the Battle Shock phase and then chosen a unit, perhaps. Let's have a look. Let me have a look
totally
at that on the
makes
back of the
sense.
handbook here.
Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah, so in the Battle Shock phase, you can use this command ability, and the unit that receives the command does not have to take a Battle Shock test. So you could have waited until the Battle Shock phase, which is how it's done now, which obviously we know going forward. So that would have been a useful ability to use on those Witch Elves, because look how many there are dead. So there's no way you were possibly going to avoid the rest of them also fleeing.
Yes. Yeah. So you see, it all seems so simple now.
They do kill off the Knight Incantor, though, the remaining
they
Witch
do?
Elves.
Oh, so I got to fight with those 3
Yes.
in your round, but then at the end of the battle round, I had to roll for bravery, and obviously they weren't going to pass it with all those
So
deaths.
they all run away. So command points is obviously a thing that we need to make sure we're playing correctly in future, because that's quite a big deal in this edition.
So everyone died in the middle, basically.
Yes, but the Doomfire Warlocks are still holding that terrain piece, so you are going to get a victory point there. The Hag and the Shrine are holding the steps as well. And over here, the Etherwings are holding that one. So it's going to be 1 for the Stormcast, moving me up to 3, and 2 for Remington's forces there. So
Now,
catching up.
Yeah, even though I'd been completely, like, half my army's taken out, I thought, if I just hold on to those 2 objectives, and hope Andy's shooting isn't that good, I could actually win this game. So why not bring back that that shrine, um, and just mop up these dragon ponies, and then I'll be sitting pretty because there's only two rounds left, right?
Yes. So you did get to go first again. So I haven't
Yeah.
had a double turn yet.
No, I don't think anyone got a double turn so far, did it? It's just back and forth. Old school,
Yeah.
baby.
So you're chasing down the concussors with the shrine, full of confidence, having swatted away the Lord Celestant earlier.
Yeah, my shrine's only taken 2 wounds, so it's not diminished in any of its abilities yet either.
And look at that cinematic shot there of the arrows. Those bows trained on the various vile creatures at the disposal of the Daughters of Khaine. And another cinematic shot there as Remington's taking his time over one of his moves, no doubt.
So what were you thinking here, Andy? Were you thinking are you gonna shoot the shrine, or are you gonna shoot that beautiful lady standing on
Well,
top of?
the shrine is only one model. The hag is only one model. So if I shoot down the hag, that's one less thing that you can hold an objective with, and it's going to be much easier and quicker to kill than the shrine. That was my thinking.
But didn't you think she looked so beautiful up there? You know, summoning lightning.
That's oddly enough not what I was thinking.
Oh,
Doomfire Warlocks are hiding a bit in the terrain now. So at this point, we decided. Well, I think we were discussing what the rules are on cover now, and you decided that you would then step into the terrain, so you would have a better save.
What's annoying here, Andy, is that you were just out of reach of my magic and shooting for these guys. So I could have done, maybe picked off 1 or 2 of those guys with the stand-up crossbows, but I couldn't reach them. And if I was to get closer to you, I'd be either exposed or not on the objective.
Yes, if you wanted to be within range to use all your attacks, then you would have been off the objective, which would have been probably a bad idea. Stu says, "Good Lord, do I miss the hallowed ground of Warhammer World?" Well, with things opening up again, I'm sure it won't be long before you're down here again.
Hey, Stu.
And here we've got the shrine gets into the concussors, and of course mortal wounds being dished out on these heavily armoured Stormcast. That's what you want, really. I'm sure you're going to be poring over the Daughters of Khaine list, looking for all the mortal wound dishing you can possibly deliver.
I love that Blood Rack Shrine, man. I love it. Now check this bladed impact. The bladed carriage of the Blood Rack Shrine cleaves its way through enemy ranks with ease. After this model makes a charge move, pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of this model and roll a dice. On a 2+, that enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. This is before I've made any attacks. It's amazing. So I plow in and
look at that. This is after your attacks. You've got one of them is just gone, and the other one is down to 3 wounds. So quite a devastating attack there. And then eventually, the other one's dead as well. So that must have been when you made the rest of your attacks, because it's got quite a few, and it's still on 11 wounds, so it's still at full fighting power.
Yeah, and you can see that my abilities have improved. I think one of them might have been some kind of priestly spell that I put onto the Blood Rack Shrine, but also there's +1 to hit and reroll ones to hit or reroll ones to wound, or both. I can't remember. So many things to remember. But yeah, it just made me a juggernaut of death.
So I have no fighting units left now, but you only have, I think, 4 models left on the whole table. You've got 2 Doomfire Warlocks over there on the right, which you can just about see poking out behind that wall. You've got the hag on the temple, and you've got the shrine. I've got lots of shooting left, and the birds sitting on an objective.
Oh man, I so want another turn just to charge into those arrow guys on the left. I think there's a chance I could have taken out all of them guys on the left just with my shrine.
That's entirely possible.
I would have loved that so much.
So what happens in the Stormcast turn? Well, all the guns immediately target the hag, because she is sitting on an objective. It was tempting to shoot the shrine and try and kill that, but the shrine was not on an objective at the time, So the hag has to go. Gun down, so that's going to prevent one victory point being delivered. Then the long strike crossbows, shooting at the Doomfire Warlocks, kill one of them, which isn't enough to deprive you of a victory point there, because one of them still stands. So the birds are obviously holding that side. So victory points dished out at the end of that turn. I get one more, putting me up to 4. And Remington gets one more for the Doomfire Warlock, putting him up to 3. So there's only 1 point in it going into the final round. And as we look at the final round, I think we both knew what the good move here was for the shrine.
Oh, I so wanted to plow into those arrow guys, man. I mean, do you remember what? Didn't there used to be 6 battle rounds? At what point did it become 5?
I think for the entire run of Age of Sigmar, it's been 5.
Wow.
Back in fantasy days, it was 6 turns as the default.
Got you. Why do you think it's gone to 5?
I think because it's a lot more in-your-face action now.
Yeah, true.
Less manoeuvring.
True. It's less about just killing all your foe as well, isn't it now? It's more about just getting the points. Objectives, right? I never used to have objectives in Warhammer Fantasy. Anyway, so I've kind of got no choice, even though I so want to deliver a crushing blow to those ballistas there. I might have even scored a wound off it with the blood rack stare.
I think you did actually.
Agony. Yeah, just enough to wound it anyway. But yeah, it's clear I need to get that objective, so I'm going to charge those birds.
Yes, because not only are you depriving me of a point by charging the birds and killing them, you're also gaining one for yourself, unless I can kill the shrine or get more models than you onto that terrain, which is going to be difficult because the ballista is painfully slow. And to get round you would cost a lot of movement, so running would definitely not be a sure thing. And, of course, the birds get eaten in one go, obviously. What did you think was going to happen when the Bloodwreck Shrine attacks 3 little birds?
Now, at this point, you know, I was so powered up with various things. I might have gone overboard with the power ups because perhaps I misread it or I didn't understand it. But it was at this point, it was like +1 to hit, re-rolling 1s and 2s to hit, +1 to wound, and re-rolling 1s to wound. Something ridiculous like that. And Andy later pointed out that you can't do that, right?
Well, there is a cap on things like that now, but in this instance, I don't think it made any difference because you would have eaten them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, true. I've got D6 attacks in just with the tail of the serpent, 4 attacks with the whisper claw, 3 attacks with the blood rack spear, and because I hadn't been wounded, another 6 attacks with the goad staves of those 2 attendants. So, yeah, that's a lot of attacks.
So, as it stands, going into my final turn, Remington is going to win if the Shrine and the Doomfire Warlock survive and I don't reach any of the objectives. He will go 1 point into the lead. So on my turn, the long strike crossbows gun down the last Doomfire Warlock, which means at worst it's going to be a draw now. And I realised that I could not possibly run past the Shrine with my shooter units here and reach the terrain. It was just too far. I don't know whether I'd left them too far back because it did keep them safe for the whole game. Nothing wanted to commit that far to attack them. And I decided I'm just going to have one go and try and shoot down that shrine to win the game. However, I chose this round. This was the first time during the game that the extra fancy Judicator Prime's bow just totally failed and missed. And the ballista, I think, rolled really badly as well. So I might have done 1 additional wound to the shrine in that turn. When I needed a further 10. So it was a long shot to kill it in 1 round with just those attacks, but it had to be attempted. And nobody in the middle, so no one's claiming that one, nobody's claiming that one. And that means Stormcast end with 4, Daughters of Khaine end with 4. It's a draw. There's Remington posing with the Bloodwreck Shrine. Definitely the model of the game. Killed The Lord Celestant and the Concussors pretty much single-handedly. It killed the birds. It claimed victory points. It did a pretty good job all round. For Stormcast, I think the model of the game, possibly the Ballista, killed a lot.
It definitely did, man. I mean, I think one lesson that perhaps you've learnt from this is that it probably worked out for the best in you not focus firing on the shrine because you almost won the game. You didn't lose the game by just polishing off everything else, right? Don't always go for the don't always go for the big charity monster thing. Shoot off everything else, and that's exactly what you did. I
That
think
is
you only shot this in the very final round when it was the only thing left on the table.
It is tempting to say that, but on the other hand, had I targeted it sooner, then perhaps I could have dwindled it down in wounds, so it wouldn't have been as effective at fighting. And maybe it
True,
wouldn't have chewed through some of my units quite so easily.
true, and its move goes down. It's only got 6 movement, you see. So when you get wounded, it can go down to 5, 4, and 3-inch moves. So it can get really weak by being wounded.
Yeah, so it would have been difficult for it to chase down my birds on an objective, for instance,
Mm.
late in the game. And it did kill both the concussors in a single round as well, so had it been weakened, maybe not. But there was a lot to shoot at. There's a lot of witch elves there. And I think what would you say is the worst unit in that game? Not in terms of just its stats, but which units were handled poorly by us.
Oh, for me, it was the Kinari Life Takers. No question. I think um, I was just a bit shocked they only had 1 wound. If they had 2 wounds each, they might have survived a round of combat. But it was just a really poor decision. I mean, they're pretty cheap to take, but charging them in unnecessarily was a really poor decision.
I think for
So
me, even though the Lord Celestant did actually kill the Sisters of Slaughter unit by himself, he was then totally exposed and charged from all sides and slaughtered. I could have put him in a position where he was actually supporting another unit rather than going off on his own and getting killed very early in the game. So that would have been nice. So obviously I lost my general at that stage as well.
yeah, I think if I was to play this battle again, I would get rid of the Sisters of Slaughter because I had too many combat units and not enough shooter units, and probably would have taken another 5 of the serpent archers. So that might have rebalanced it. And yeah, the Hag Queen on her own is just a bit exposed. I don't know why I brought her really. I've just had the chariot as the general.
Well, I've got a lot of Stormcast options for units I can take, so the next game is going to be slightly bigger. The Star Drake's probably coming,
Oh
so
god.
anyone commenting on this, let me know which Stormcast units you would like to see. If you've seen any of my collection, then you've probably got a pretty good idea what's in there. A lot of the older stuff, and I'm currently working on the new stuff, which is ready to be primed now. Just finished sanding up the bases. And also Kharadron Overlords being worked on too. And I'm sure Mr. Remington will be feverishly assembling his Cruel Boys as well for some extra
I've
spicy
I've
content.
I've almost finished assembling them actually. So I've just got the big brute that's on that weird beast. They've brought out some more beasters, haven't they, for the cruel boys? I don't know if you've noticed on Wild Community, but
They have.
there's look pretty tasty.
We're
So
gonna have
yeah,
we're gonna have a proper look through all that new stuff and all the extra spice that's being revealed constantly on next week's Andy and Rem show. Most likely
so
on Tuesday
I mean,
again.
Andy, other things that I forgot to do just from complete ineptitude. I didn't use any of the artifacts that I brought. Right, I got these artifacts I put on my list like Shadrukar's Fang, Hag Brew, Seed of Rebirth. I mean, they sound quite tasty.
There is a lot to
And
keep track of in this game, though, so I think we can be forgiven for not using half of our abilities the first game into the edition. I think it's something you have to play it enough times, and you'll develop a system for remembering things as time goes on.
sure, I mean, I had the Pit of Shades spell. I didn't use it once, so uh, I could have perhaps used the Pit of Shades on your some of your shooter units earlier on. But there you go. Live and learn.
Indeed you do, and we've got another game coming up very soon as well, so there'll be more battle reporting action. And when we're fully familiar with these new rules and it wouldn't be a painful experience to watch, then we will look into doing some video battle reports as well, rather than just still images. So you can definitely look forward to that, everybody. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, all the links in the description, all that good stuff. And would you like to say farewell to the audience as we approach 1 hour live?
Yeah, this was great, man. Hope you enjoyed this battle report and this style of reporting. If you didn't, then yeah, let us know how we could make it better for next time, because there will be more.
Yes, and I'm also working on a nice frame for the battle reports as well, so you can actually see us, just tiny us in the corner of the screen. We don't want to overlap too much of the game pictures. So all that remains to be said now is keep it spicy and good night out there, whatever you are.